Friends, we are back in the garage, back from Ontario, where my friend Joel and I took our gravel bikes and raced at a very rainy, very muddy P to A, Paris to Ancaster. The race video turned out super good. It was the last upload. You should watch that before you watch this. But I thought it'd be kind of a nice bookend to the series to sort of reflect on how my relatively stock, a lot of the parts that were put on were purely out of vanity. The biggest performance changer was the tires, but how it fared out for the event, and the one thing that I would change about it to go and do it all again before we start gallivanting on all the other different types of bikes that we're constantly playing with here. Does that seem fair? So here's how the bike sits currently after coming off the rack and rolling into this garage. The brakes currently do not work. Okay, watch this. Yeah, I was going down the descents like that, and I was just kind of putting my foot on the ground, dragging it to create some friction to slow down. It shifts perfectly fine. Yeah, the shifting was pretty flawless the entire time, honestly. There are scuffs on the crankset and the chainstay and a few other spots, purely due to my bad heel placement while I'm riding a bike. The wheels are currently having a bit of a harder time spinning freely and quickly. I would say some grit has probably got into these bearings. Might be a false alarm. I was mistaken. There's just a bunch of stuff stuck in the brake caliper. Gotta love a fix like that. And honestly, for an entry-level spec'd and priced bike, it did not experience an entry-level pace, and it easily, without problem, kept up with significantly more expensive bikes out there. I actually spent a little bit of time stressing over the wheel set on this thing. I wanted to try and find a way to scheme my way into a carbon wheel set and do the through axle conversion, yet somehow I wasn't able to just gather up an extra $2,000 to make something like that happen. Weird. It would not have made a difference. There were people in front of us who were getting stuck on logs. A nice set of wheels would not have made a difference whatsoever. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't make that impulse investment. Same sort of story for the drivetrain as the wheels. I actually did spend a little bit of time scouring and trying to figure out a cost-effective upgrade for the drivetrain, but more so for the brakes. And while the shifting, the drivetrain of this was flawless the entire time, it's still working fine now, even with a rusty chain. It is the brakes that honestly, they failed. They failed me throughout the race. I still finished well in the race, but had I had a set of hydraulic brakes that would recenter the pads and not have the same problem that a mechanical disc has. And the problem that occurred isn't unique to this brake, it's unique to any mechanical disc. If you're in really gritty, disgusting conditions and you wear your brake pads down, the brake cable can only pull so far until it won't pull any further and the brakes are no longer effective. So there's still good life left in these brake pads. It's just the cable couldn't pull enough for the brake to actually actuate. Does that make sense? Where a hydraulic brake resets and recenters the brake pad always, so you can use the whole life of the brake pad without having to make any adjustment. There is an argument here that if I had a hydraulic brake, I didn't have to get off the bike and didn't have to slow down, take my foot off for all these descents, less people would have passed me, and they may have been in my same class, they may have been in my same wave. I may have been able to ride a lot quicker on all the descents, all the areas that I was a little timid on, than what I did, which was literally not pedal, put my foot down, drag my foot. So it's a bit of a niche problem. It's unique to those style of conditions where the mud is really gritty. It's getting into the brakes and it just wears the brake pads down so fast. So to be prepared and remain competitive for any conditions, it really should have a set of hydraulic disc brakes on it. But otherwise, I was able to pilot this thing to 87th out of 1,118 riders. But also I had super happy fun time riding this thing through the mud with my friend, brakes be damned. And that was kind of all we really wanted out of the thing. And I hope what you take out of it is, if you've got a bike and you want to go to a gravel event, go do it. See what happens. That's how you find out what you like. You know what I mean?